Okay, some interesting football news coming out of Spain over the last 24 hours. Villareal versus Barcelona, which is scheduled for December the 21st in Villareal, could be played in the USA in Miami at Hard Rock Stadium. Now, La Liga has put in a request to the Spanish FA. The Spanish FA have approved this. CONCACAF, FIFA and UEFA are yet to approve. There has been a legal challenge from the last attempt back in 2018, which was Girona versus Barcelona, that La Liga wanted to take to Florida, to Miami. And it's very interesting that Barcelona is involved in both of these attempts to take games to Miami in the regular season, both in December, just around the Christmas period. Very interesting, which speaks to a lot of the politicking and the division within the Spanish FA. Now, last time around in 2018 and 2019, there were fan protests, threats of player strikes. The players were threatening to go on strike. And the Spanish FA very, very quickly saw the negative reaction with the fan base, in the media, both domestically and across Europe. And the players were like, nope, we haven't signed up for this. It goes against the traditions of the game. And the Spanish FA have sort of had to waive their rule, because here's the thing: every home league game has to be played in the same stadium. So Villareal are scheduled to play at home. How many Villareal fans are going to be in attendance in Hard Rock Stadium? This is a Villareal home game. Now, as I say, this is the second attempt to play a game in the US. They in 2018 it faced backlash. Then there was a legal challenge. There was a 6-year block on La Liga attempting this, but a lot's happened since 2018 and 2019. The owners of the Miami Dolphins and Hard Rock Stadium, a group called Relevant, they then negotiated pre-season rights with clubs through UEFA and FIFA to have pre-season games played in Miami. And of course, the Hard Rock Stadium, I do believe, was a host venue for the Club World Cup, which is a FIFA tournament. Now, that 6-year block was put in place by a US court. Relevant won the case. However, a judge has now waived that block, which has allowed La Liga to put in this request to the Spanish FA to try and, again, at the second attempt, take a game to the US. Now, if this game does go ahead, there might have to be a fixture rearrangement, because the Miami Dolphins have an NFL game on the same date. And the NFL is going to take precedence. That's going to take precedence. So there are still a few hurdles to overcome if La Liga want to get their way. As I say, CONCACAF, FIFA and UEFA have got to approve any move of a game, of a league fixture from one domestic country to another. But if this does take place, then look at the Premier League and Serie A and Liga and the Bundesliga to potentially follow suit. Although the Bundesliga clubs have resolutely said they're not in favour of a European Super League. The Scandinavian clubs and the Scandinavian FAs from Finland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark and Iceland have threatened to pull out of UEFA and boycott UEFA competitions, even though their leagues and those clubs really could use like the Champions League money, the Europa League money, the Conference League money. Obviously, they're players who play for their national sides when they qualify for the Euros. Obviously, that increases their exposure as players to bigger leagues and bigger clubs. But they've threatened UEFA with boycotts and regularly voted against a whole range of ideas like this. We saw what happened with the European Super League. But here's the thing: Spanish football has a lot of debt. A lot of clubs in Spain are struggling financially. Barcelona have got ridiculous debts. There are some, every season they can't register all the players they want to register because their debts are so big, and there are salary rules in Spain aimed at trying to curb some of the debts. I mean, there's a reason why Messi left. There's a reason why they sold Neymar for the money they did. Barcelona are bleeding money. They are a global brand, but their debts are crippling. But they elect a club president, so they're not backed by a wealthy owner. Same with Real Madrid, club president. They also have really ridiculous debts. How they're finding money to finance stadium rebuilds is you've got to ask some questions about the transparency of Spanish football finance. But look at Valencia and their struggles. And again, a lot's happened. We've had the European Super League debacle. We obviously did have a couple of COVID disrupted seasons. We've seen an attempt before. We've seen a legal challenge. A judge has now lifted that legal block, but there could be a fixture rearrangement because the Dolphins are using the stadium on the date that La Liga want to play this game. CONCACAF, FIFA and UEFA have got to approve it. Although FIFA, think of this, where's the World Cup next year? Where's the World Cup next year? It's in the US. They've just had the FIFA Club World Cup in the US, which went down like a lead balloon. Attendance was poor. Domestic fans in the US didn't turn up in the numbers that was hoped. And I know I try and avoid politics here, but with the US foreign policy with tariffs, amongst other things, with the presidency, that's led to a sharp decline in overseas travellers. So it'd be interesting to see how many Spanish fans of Barcelona and Villareal, if this game does go ahead, actually make the trip over to Miami. There's been a massive drop-off in travel from Europe to the US since January, in the 8 months of Donald Trump's presidency. And that is primarily down to US foreign and economic policy. There's a reason why the attendance was really poor at the FIFA Club World Cup. The overseas fans did not travel in the numbers that the organisers were hoping. It was seen as a sort of test tournament for the World Cup next year, which raises some worrying signs. Now, if this does go ahead, don't be surprised if the Premier League try and get in on the act. And look, we saw what happened with the European Super League. We saw the fan protests against that. The clubs involved very quickly realised their fans went on board, and the protests were starting to turn nasty. It also damaged the reputation of those clubs involved. And Barcelona was one of those clubs involved in the European Super League, and their reputation's been tarnished somewhat with some corruption allegations, some match-fixing allegations, and huge debts. And this also speaks to the politics within the Spanish FA. So we'll see what happens, but there's still a way to go yet. If it does get approved, but FIFA are probably going to approve it because the World Cup is in the US next year. CONCACAF and UEFA, however, we've seen some division over certain things in regards to things like this. And the Scandinavian FAs have threatened to pull out of UEFA or boycott UEFA events, like boycott Euros and such. Now, that speaks to a division within UEFA. We've seen fan groups across Europe criticise UEFA. I mean, Crystal Palace fans are not happy with their demotion to the Conference League because of the dual ownership of Lyon and Palace with one of their shareholders. Yet Man City and Girona are allowed to play in the same. The footballing authorities are under a lot of pressure to get things right. There's a growing disconnect between fans and the game. Fans are feeling priced out of games. Local fans, Villareal is heavily reliant on its local fan base. They do have fans globally because they are seen as a true underdog club. They're a small club in regards to the community that they represent. The size of the community they play in, their stadium's bigger than the actual town's population for capacity, and they do punch above their weight. Similar with Girona against Barcelona. Again, a smaller club, that could be a big payday for them. They represent a smaller community in Spain, a smaller urban area, a less successful club, an underdog. But what we've seen, Club World Cup, for example, Chelsea made 100 million out of that. They're breaching PSR rules, yet they're finding ways to sort of fiddle the books to get round PSR rules, which is the new financial fair play. There's a lot going on that this is a symptom of, but it's about money. It's about money, and we've seen FIFA don't care about fans. We've seen UEFA at times not care about fans and have like a two-tier system for clubs in regards to Palace and Man City and dual ownership of clubs. Several clubs are allowed to be owned by one owner and play in the same competition, but when it comes to a lesser club that's qualified for Europe for the first time, Palace's case, they're getting screwed. So there is a growing anger at the footballing authorities from fans. Players are raising their concerns about their own welfare with playing games. The owners of the Hard Rock Stadium have brought a legal challenge against this idea before. So it's a mess, and we'll see what fan reaction is. But what I've seen online is very much against this, and even a lot of US fans. There's a reason why US fans love European football, not only for the Champions League and it's the history and the tradition, the promotion relegation aspect, the fact that the clubs really do represent the communities that they are based in. And represent history, tradition, and American fans are buying in for that. And when you explain that to them, they very quickly turn against the Super League. They did not turn up for the Club World Cup in the numbers anticipated, partly because of the kickoff times and partly because it didn't make sense to them. They didn't sell it very well. And a lot of US fans I've seen online are actually against this idea because it goes against the traditional aspect and the history aspect and the culture aspect of what the sport in Europe is all about and the sport globally is all about. And look, other sports are obviously taking, regular season and pre-season games overseas. Football does it as well. We've seen it with the NFL, the NHL, Major League Baseball, the NBA. The NRL are doing it now. The AFL have had a combine in the US. Other major leagues and sports around the world have done this. But the Spanish FA and La Liga are playing with fire, because last time the players threatened to go on strike, there was a legal challenge, and this speaks to the desperation for money. Spanish football has debt problems, and we'll see. It's not confirmed yet. There's a lot of hurdles to be sorted out. Obviously, the Miami Dolphins are the main anchor tenant of Hard Rock Stadium. They're playing a game at home on that day, which is going to mean a fixture rearrangement should La Liga get their way. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts on this below. From what I've seen, every fan is against this. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. There's a lot of anger at the footballing authorities, again, for not really giving a toss about the tradition and the culture of the game. It'd be interesting to see what the players have to think as well. But the club presidents and the club chairman, they want that. They want money. They don't care about fans. It's a payday for them. But we shall see. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section below, and we'll have some more content for you all very, very soon.